mamas, and welcome back to the Mamas Who Brunch podcast. I'm your host, Jelena Reed, and I am thrilled because we have a special guest here today. I want to introduce Bess Wilfong. She is the sole founder of Angel's Arms, which is a nonprofit here in St. Louis helping foster families and foster children. She has helped hundreds of foster kids. I think today you have up to 100 per year that you're supporting, and 15 different households that they provide resources for. So super thrilled to get to talk to Bess today about her experiences, not just with starting a nonprofit here in St. Louis, but the work that she's doing there, and then also her personal journey with motherhood, going through personal experience of fostering. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I guess before we get started, let's share with our listeners a little bit more about you. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I used to be a teacher and a principal in the Lindbergh School District. And while I was doing that, my husband and I were trying to have kids and had a little struggle with that. So we went through some infertility, and then we just thought we should probably try fostering and let's just see what that's like. And it opened up a whole new world for us, and a world that a lot of people think is foster kids are taken care of, but they're not. And so that is what led me down the path to start Angel's Arms. So I was able to have 2 children biologically. So I have 2 grown young men. And let's see, and then I started Angel's Arms, and I left the education arena because it took a lot of time and effort, and but it is so worth it, and I love what I do.
So you started this nonprofit in 2000. I know this started as an idea, and I love this because I love to see ideas turn into reality. What inspired you to take something like this on? Obviously, you were going through this experience yourself, but when did you find out that foster kids were not provided for?
Yeah.
When was that awakening?
The day they arrived, our first kids arrived, I got a call right after we went through the training, and the call was to take a sibling group of 2. And I said, well, we're not parents and we've never done this before, and we just wanted to get one. And that's when they told us that they would be separated because a lot of people can't take 2 kids. And so I was like, oh my God, why did you have to say that to me? So we
That's
immediately
gut-wrenching.
said, yeah, and that's when we took 2. And what we found out also was, they were dropped off on our front doorstep with nothing. Like they
Oh
had
my
nothing
gosh.
with them. And I said, well, can't we just get some of their stuff or whatever? No, they were taken from school. Mom didn't show up in court, and we can't go back home yet. And so, you're just going to have to get some things for the night. And I was like, okay. So I ran to Target and had to get pajamas and toothbrushes. I had no idea that they were coming
Wow.
with nothing. And it was our first experience. So they were 7 and 9 and adorable. And they were excited at first because, they call it the honeymoon period. And it was like, oh, but I gave the girl a bath and Larry gave the boy a bath. And they were both so excited because we had hot water. And I was like, what? I thought these kids came from Glendale and Kirkwood. How do they not have hot water? And then just things kept unfolding and unfolding. So what we found out is Mom was a functional alcoholic and was leaving the kids at night. And so they
Wow.
had to fend for themselves. They didn't have food. They talked about cream cheese looking like wool and all this. Just like, oh my God. So
No. Well, I have questions about just how you got into the process. So did
yeah.
you fill out an application with a local group, or how did
Yeah.
this all
So
happen?
yeah, I just Googled and tried to find out how to do that. And so there in Missouri, it's very different in St. Louis than some other states. So we have the Children's Division, which is everywhere, but we also have private agencies and they're nonprofits that will also do the training and licensing for parents. And we have several. So it's kind of hard to know which one to go through and how to do that. So I just was with the St. Louis County Children's Division. So I filled out the paperwork and they said, okay, it'll take 12 weeks of training. And that's what we did. We did it immediately and went through those trainings, and you're not really prepared. I think it's more stuff
Yeah.
like it was more the trainings based on, expecting the outbursts from kids, how you can't ever touch
Like
the kids. You
behavioral
can't. Yeah,
correction and stuff.
correct. But there were so many things that we didn't know. So that's how we went through the process. Um, but after
So how
that,
long did you have the kids after you got them, after they were dropped off at your house?
they were going to terminate mom's rights because she was continuing to drink, and no one in the family was adopting them, and it was very unfortunate. And they were a kind of a well-to-do family, and it was kind of shocking to us that no one else wanted them, but that does happen more often than not. So we did not want to adopt at the time. We were still young and trying to figure out how to have a family and everything. So they did go to another home, and it was an adoptive home and a pre-adoptive home, so that was good, and they ended
Wonderful.
up
Okay,
getting
good.
adopted.
So at Angel's Arms, I know that you support families that have foster children. Is the
Mhm.
goal to get those foster kids connected back to their parents?
Mhm. Angel's Arms doesn't have anything to do with the licensing of the parents or the placement of the kids. What we do is, so we have these 15 homes. We provide these homes to experienced foster parents who know what they're doing. So they have to have foster at
Good.
least 5 years. And then they come in and they have to take a lot of kids while they don't have rent to deal with and a mortgage to deal with. It gets very expensive to take care of foster kids. The stipend is very nominal, and our state is one of the lowest.
Really? Okay, that's
It is.
interesting.
Yeah, it's sad that we don't provide enough, but then what they have to do, the parents then, what they do is they're in the house, and then whoever they're licensed through, whatever agency, the agency will call those parents and say, "Hi, we have a sibling group of 3. Can you take them?"
Got it.
So all of our homes have 4, 5, 6 kids in them. A lot of them have sibling groups, not all of them do. And we work with the parents to say, who are you most comfortable, caring for? Some of them only want teenagers, which is wonderful because that's hard to find. Others say we can do medical needs kids.
Mhm.
Others can do what's called therapeutic placements. Those are kids who have big issues and they're hard. They're hard to care for. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so that's kind of
So,
what our parents do in those homes.
so I would love to hear, we'll probably get into a little bit more about Angel's Arms, but I want to hear about your experience when you fostered these children. Were they fostered at the same time that you had your biological kids?
No, it was before.
Before. Okay. Let's say like there's a parent out there that has a kid and they're thinking of fostering. What advice would you give to them if one, if they
Yeah,
don't have kids, and then two, if they do have kids?
that's a great question. And I will say we did have kids after foster kids after the first child we had. So I just thought you meant with the 2 that we first
The
had.
two
We
that you
didn't have.
started with. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very doable, but what I learned from other foster parents, I tried to reach out to anyone I could and asked a lot of questions, and they said to always make sure that your bio kids are the oldest kids.
Okay. Okay.
You want them to be able to, feel like this is my home, and and then you have kids coming into care, and you want to prepare them for that. And you also want them to be able to fend for themselves. And so we started fostering again. We stopped when we had the first one, and we started again when he was 4.
Okay.
And it went really well. I mean, there were issues of, like we made sure, again, this is the advice we received, and it was good advice. The bio child had his own room, right? And so
Oh, yeah.
those were his things, and foster kids had separate rooms, and those things were their things. And, you
Got
just
it.
have to constantly reinforce that and say, this is, his room, this is your room. And, if we share, that's something we can talk about, but you can't just go in and do that. So there were some issues we had
Yeah.
to work through with that, but for the most part, it worked well. And, your kids then learn so much about the fact that Wow, I take a lot for granted. Now they don't do that at age 4, but
No.
later, you
Yeah.
want them to realize that not every child has a family, and not every child has someone who's looking after them and loving them and caring for them. So, it was really a good experience, I think, and then not having children and doing it is wonderful as well, because to me, the hardest part was so many people thought they were our kids, right? They'd say, "Your
Yes.
son and your daughter." And you don't
Yes.
wanna say in front of them, "No, these are foster kids." That's just not a nice thing to
Mhm.
do and
Yeah.
to label them that way. So, we talked again to other foster parents, and I read books, and basically we just said, "Yes," unless they're good friends, and we tried to tell our friends and family before, and,
Yeah.
these are our foster kids, and don't refer to them as that because they're part of our family.
That makes perfect sense. I think that's great advice. I have considered I never wanna say no, like, the possibility of being a foster parent or adopting. But for somebody that is open to those possibilities, I feel like it would be hard to get attached to a foster child. Like, that to me is in the back of my mind of, like, if I fostered, getting attached and, like, not seeing them again would be hard. Can you kinda talk through that?
Right. Yes, there are so many people who won't foster because of that. It's easy to get attached, especially when you see all this progress because they're in a safe environment and a loving environment and they're starting to thrive and you have little say in what happens next. So the goal of the state is always reunification. If it can happen,
As it
that's
should
what.
be. Yeah.
Yes, but there are times when foster parents don't agree with that, and I that happened to us when we knew the parents would visit the children, and they were supervised visits, and I was able to be there.
Mhm.
That doesn't always happen either. Sometimes they're unsupervised, which means the kids or foster kids are gonna meet with their bio parent or parents without anyone there, and
Yeah.
that's never happened in our circumstance, they were always supervised, but
Got
I
it.
observed so many things. I had the bio mom who was very upset because of the way we dressed some of our foster kids, like, "What is that they have on?" And it was like, "Oh my gosh." So
They're being
I
provided for.
like, "Oh my
Hard.
gosh, they're here for a reason, and it's not because of the clothes," and so you just realize and then the kids tell you some things sometimes that are very telling about their parents, and they say
Yeah, for sure.
so that's what's so hard, and so when you have little say and they do get returned, that's very difficult. But foster parents, the ones who have done it for a really long time, like some of the ones in the Angels Arms homes, they look at it as I get to, like it's an honor to get to care for someone else's child. And this is not my child, but
Mhm.
I am going to treat this child like part of my family, and I'm going to do everything I can to plant those seeds of love and hope that they stay there for the
Mhm.
rest of their lives. So it's really this mindset that you have to say, I can't get attached. I can love this child. I can do whatever I can, but I can't allow myself. You just have to remind yourself, this isn't my child. I
Right.
just
You're
get
doing
to.
it's for their good, right? It's a
Yes.
very selfless act to
Right.
care for someone else's child.
It really
It's a
is.
noble cause. Have you ever come across a situation where foster kids reunite with, like, foster
Yes.
parents, like, in the future when they grow up?
Yes, and that's so beautiful. It's happened with us personally, with the first 2 that came to us, which is great. But I can say the foster parents we have in our homes, they will send notes to me and they'll send texts and say, "Oh, I just heard from Josh, who is 30 now and has 2 children and blah, blah, blah," and it's like, "Oh, yes," and you realize that the role they played. And some of our homes too, some of our parents have been fostering 25, 30 years, and they at Christmas and Thanksgiving, they have so many kids coming back to their home because that's their family, and it is
Yeah.
just a beautiful experience because 'cause they're all in the same boat too, like, they know you were in foster care, I'm in foster care, she's in foster care, and we had similar experiences, so they bond, and it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
beautiful thing.
Do you ever have any, like, reunions where all the kids come back together? or are they just
That's
kind of move
so
on?
funny. I can't believe you're asking that because our foster mom, one of our moms, Phyllis, asked if we could do that this summer. And she said, "Can we please have a reunion and get all of them back together?" And so we're going to plan one.
That's
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
so
How
excited.
exciting.
Yes.
So I know you guys, I'm looking on the website and I know you guys have like a ton of volunteers, which is amazing. So for people that maybe they don't want to be foster parents per se, but they want to get involved, they want to help kids in need. What are some of the needs that Angels Arms has
Hmm.
where people can like volunteer? Like what can people do to be part of it?
So it's great that people want to, if they would want to get involved in a foster child's life without fostering. That's not necessary. It's always wanted. There's a shortage of foster homes. But when some of the things that we try to do is Angels Arms is, I always say, community based organization because we involve the community and we try to give as many opportunities as we can for, and I'll just give some examples. Birthdays. People can say, we post the birthdays and we'll say, these are the birthdays we have in July. Would you like to be a birthday pal? And what that means, it also depends on the age. If they want to do little kids' birthdays, they can do it up at a place if they want. They can come to
Mhm.
the foster parents' home. And then if it's a teen, they can do gift cards and a cake and balloons or whatever. But it's really up to them. We found that some foster children have never had a birthday celebration. Like no one even recognized their birthday. And
Wow.
so they're just really like, oh my gosh, what is this all about? So we don't want to make
Wow.
a big giant one at first, but it's just a really neat way for people feeling special. We also have a meal drop off program,
Mhm.
or they can deliver a meal. So they can make a meal, and they can do this with any of the homes. Other things they can do. We have lots of kids who they want to do an activity or something special, and that's not covered by the state. So say you have teens and you have 3 that need to go to prom and they really want to go to prom. Well, that foster parent has to pay for all of that.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we say, no, we're going to do a wish and we're going to put it out there for the age and all that.
For bid. And then
Right.
you guys help with also probably basic needs that aren't getting
We
funded.
do. We
And then
do.
those extra things that you want kids to experience and enjoy, to have some
Yes.
type of normalcy.
Exactly. Another thing we find, there are people who mean well and they'll say, here's some clothes, some old clothes, and they'll drop them off. And we're like, really? I mean, and they'll say, well, they're foster kids. And I'll say,
Oh,
yeah. And here they are in this really good school district and they deserve new clothes or nice clothes. You don't want the teens going to school without
it's
Nike
humiliating.
shoes or
Yeah.
like you want them to fit in. You want them to feel like,
Yeah.
oh, and
That's such a
so,
pivotal time of life to go to school,
right.
especially like high school. Like they already are struggling enough. I understand what you're saying. It's like you want people to do something, but you want it to be actually meaningful, not to
Yeah.
do something just to check a box. Right.
Right. Right. And I know
So
they mean well, but we try to make the child feel good about
yeah.
themselves and have confidence and all that.
Yes.
So there's so many other ways too. We have fundraisers because we don't get any federal or state funds. So we have to host fundraisers and we love when people attend those. This summer we even have opportunities for people and they can bring their kids to help too. But we've had some moms request for moms helpers. We have one mom in a fluorescent home who has 6 kids. Her husband's at work and they're all young. And she just said, it's hard to take 6 non-swimmers to the pool, but we
Yeah.
want to go to the pool and we would love help, and I think what a great opportunity for a parent to take
Get
their kids
engaged.
and help, right. And
That's cool.
so that's something we can connect, if somebody's interested in doing that, they can contact us and we put them in touch with the parent. And then
Awesome.
they can talk and work that out. We don't get involved in, oh, we want you to go on these days and all that. But it's
You let
between
them
them
sort
and the
that out.
family. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking on the website. There's a couple things I do wanna make mention of that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
There's a monthly giving program. You guys have a holiday program. There's an events page on the website. People can check that out. And then
Hmm.
there's also, it looks like you guys have community partners. What do the community partners provide?
Yeah. So our community partners are everything from people who provide maintenance for the homes. They might do work days. We just had Worldwide Technology and RGA do 2 big work days. And it was
Amazing.
so great. Their teams, they're given the day to do that. RGA, they did something different and they said it was a team at RGA and they collected money to provide funds for summer activities for all the kids. So it
Amazing.
helped. Yes, it helped fund memberships, which I can't believe how much it costs to join a rec center. It's $1,000 and plus, and then they'll say for each additional child, more than 4, it's more than that. Six Flags passes for some of the kids who can go. Just, some of them, they just want to have a mini vacation. And that means like, can we go to Trout Lodge for 2 days? We're
Yeah.
not talking about going to Disney and all that.
Yeah.
So
I love this because you're opening my eyes and you'll open other people's eyes through this podcast because I think that there's a misunderstanding of like I think when I think of immediate needs, I think of housing and food and clothes. But there's
right,
so many more things that kids need besides basic necessities to have a
definitely.
a well-rounded childhood. Like, and
Right.
that's something that you just don't think about when you're not in that environment. So I really appreciate you kind of explaining more about that.
Oh,
As far as like ways to get involved, I know there are a lot, which is amazing. Is there anything we missed from
uh,
opportunities like
we have volunteer groups, yeah, that can come to some of the homes depending on, what is we have people that do yard work, we have people who adopt rooms. That means, that might be a girl's room and it needs a refresh or something, and they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, we're gonna make this room pink and white," or whatever. So, various opportunities like that, just anything that the parents, who don't have time to do those types of things. And our homes get a lot of wear and tear because you have so many kids coming in and out, and you have
right?
kids who have never learned to care for things, and it's hard, and you also have kids who are angry and who might, punch a wall or
I
throw
mean,
something, and it's like, "Okay, now we gotta fix this, and now we gotta do that." And so, I feel there are opportunities for that as well.
yeah. And so you guys, I mean, 15 homes. I mean, it's almost like you're a real estate company as well.
Correct. We do have some really good assets that I didn't start Angel's Arms thinking that we would have this many homes. It was, let's just have one home that the community supports, where the community can get involved and help these foster parents.
Yeah.
Because so many people were helping us. And I was thinking, we don't need as much help as some of these other foster parents. But the response was so great because people, you see, they do want to help. They just need to
Mhm.
be given that opportunity. And they're
Yeah.
not given that through the foster system. The state
Yes.
that they doesn't open up foster care to kids. And so, I mean, to the community. And so we
Mhm.
are trying to say this is a way you can help while still protecting their confidentiality and
Yeah.
things. There are so many ways to do that.
So, knowing that we have an audience primarily of mothers, so I know
Yes.
you mentioned like the mother support, like joining a mom to go to the pool. What
Mhm.
other things can mothers specifically do? I heard making a meal or groceries. Are those
Yes.
what's like the top needs?
They love getting meals because they are making dinner for so many people, in the house. And they're also, especially in the summer and over the holidays, they're home all day. Now they're tasked and they're not getting more money to do this. So now they're tasked with having enough food on hand for,
Yeah.
breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. But we also have it's called Marion's Depot. It's a warehouse and we keep high needed items there. So the number one item parents ask for is laundry detergent. They are doing laundry
I'm not
nonstop.
surprised.
And when you think about it, it's expensive.
It is.
And they don't want the no name brand. They've tried and they're just like, it has to work. It has to be good laundry detergent and it has to
Yeah, because
work.
not only is it like sanitary, it's a smell. You gotta get
Yes.
the smelly out.
Right. So we have laundry detergent, toilet paper, paper products and we also have food items like frozen foods, especially in
Mhm.
the summer, where kids can just go make a pizza or chicken nuggets, things like that they
Easy
can
for
just,
them
right.
to make.
Any snack foods. We love collecting those for them. We do and we have a list on our website and there's an Amazon wish list and they
I
can,
see that.
if they don't want to go shopping, I mean they can always go shopping and come drop it off if they want, but some people just say I'm just going to order them, 5 things of laundry detergent and it's shipped to us. And then we put it in the warehouse and then the parents come and shop for it.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just like, I keep looking at the website because that's like all I can do is just look. It's just amazing, like what you've done.
So
I
many
just,
people.
so many people impacted in such a great way. I would love to hear more about your experience being a mom and motherhood. So, what can you share with us, like, of everything you do, like leading a nonprofit, having boys of your own, seeing them grow up, having foster kids? Like, what would you like to share about your motherhood experience?
Yeah. Well, I know all the moms feel this and know this, but I think every mom knows that being a mother is the greatest gift in the world and the biggest honor and the thing that you want to do the best you can at.
Hmm.
But we don't always know what the best we can do is. And
Right.
sometimes we learn too late. And sometimes we just need help at doing that. I know that, when my first child was born, he had colic. I didn't know he had colic. I was like, oh my gosh, babies cry all the time. This is so horrible. Like I was losing my mind. And
Yeah, I feel
I
that.
tried everything and would say, go drive somewhere, just go away and I'll be here with him. And I would come back and he was still screaming. So I try to think of that and I think of if there's a parent doing that just with a baby on their own, and then if they have other kids with them, that is so challenging. I mean,
For sure.
I don't know what they would do.
Yeah.
And there are places, and that's what I learned so much as a mom. We all make mistakes, and I still make them as a mom. And I say, oh my gosh, I should have offered this, and my kids are grown and gone. But
Yeah.
we're constantly learning and I feel like we can't be too hard on ourselves because we're doing the very best we can.
Yes.
But I got to know a lot of parents whose kids were removed from their homes, or the parents said, I don't think I can do this. And they
Wow.
either
That's
drop
hard.
them off somewhere, which you're allowed to do. You are allowed to do that. You can't, there was just something on the news last week. I think a child was found in Cahokia somewhere in a park somewhere, and they
Mhm.
just abandoned the child. That's not what you do. But you can take them to a fire station, a police station, hospital, and you can say, I just don't think I can. And that does happen. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to look at that and you think, "Oh, I could never do that to my child." But I have learned that there are people who are in a life experience that is so different from mine. Maybe they don't have any income. Maybe they have an abusive spouse and they're so afraid to leave that spouse. You just don't know. Maybe they have a mental illness and they
Yeah.
realize. So I look at that and say, that must be the hardest decision in the world for that mom to give up your child, to say, here, I want someone else to do this because they're going to do a lot better than me. That is the ultimate sacrifice, I think,
Yes.
as a
I think
parent.
I agree.
I don't,
For me, that would
and
be the
I
hardest thing in the
know.
world, so
And we say, I would never do that. I never do that. But I've never been in that situation.
correct. Yeah.
And so that's what I've learned a lot, and I look at that differently now. A lot of our foster parents look at that bio issue and they'll know the bio parent is either doesn't care and just wants to get on with their life and they're selfish or whatever. So then that's like, you don't deserve to have this child, right?
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
that's how you are. But then
Yeah.
they also look at everything they can and say, look, these kids were taken into care because they were left alone. Mom is working 3 jobs and she's truly struggling. And when we go in, when I say we, I mean the state, and go in and
Mhm.
take their children away, that knocks them down even more.
Oh, for
As
sure.
a the parent's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do anything. And now my kids are taken away. What's the point?"
Right.
And some parents then that's when some people either honestly commit suicide or they'll say, "I quit. I'll just give
Yeah.
up my rights. I can't do this." And
Mhm.
and instead, those are people we can help. We can say,
100%.
let us help you with childcare. Let us connect you. Let's help you find ways to do this because they
Mhm.
don't know how to navigate the system.
Right.
And that's all of our jobs, because these children are our children. Once they come into care, they are the state's care. And those are our tax dollars. And we
Right.
should all have a responsibility to do something to help either the child, the bio parent, the foster parent, all the people involved in this child's life. And so
100%. Wow.
that's what I've learned as a parent, that I can't judge other parents when I see things because I realize, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's happening to them right now.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I'm
we just don't know the
not
struggles.
going
It
to
could
judge
be to
them.
save the child, right? Then
Right.
to give up their child could be the only option to save that child.
Right.
So it's hard for me to be able to relate with that. Can't even imagine what would go through my mind as somebody that would
I
have to give up
know.
my own baby. But at the same time, they're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
right? Probably most of the time. It's not like they want to do that. I would have hoped
Right.
not, that most
Yeah.
people are not wanting to give their kids up.
'Cause how
So,
do you live with yourself? Now there are some cases we've had in some of our homes where the boyfriend comes in the picture and doesn't like one of the kids because he's too effeminate and that actually did happen, and the mom said, "Pick the boyfriend over the
oh
son."
no. Oh my
And that
gosh.
is really hard to deal with because then that child, I realized as a foster parent, no matter what your mom does to you, it doesn't matter what your mom does to you. You want your mom. You want your
100%.
mom. And I had those first foster kids we had. Her name was Laura, and she would just start yelling, "I want my mom. I want my mom." And she wanted to go back home so badly. And that's what hurt me the most, because you never say anything negative about the parents. And what I also learned from another foster parent who is unbelievable, what she says to her kids is, your mom loves you. Your mom, I don't believe, I know for a fact your mom loves you. She just needs help. She
Right.
needs help doing the hardest job in the world, which is being a parent. And she needs help,
Right.
but it doesn't mean she doesn't love you. And so that's what I learned to say. And that's how I look at it now because I
Mhm.
learned from this other foster mom.
Yeah.
We just try to do whatever we can to make sure they feel loved. We're not going to
Yeah.
fill that void for them, but if they feel loved and they can see that the community is kind of wrapping their arms around them, not just the foster family, but strangers are coming and bringing meals and doing birthdays and saying, "Sure, I'll pay for your track, whatever it is. You're going on a
Yeah.
field trip. Let me pay for you to do that." They see that and they learn that, and that becomes part of who they are.
So is there a place where you all post these opportunities, like these one-off cases? Is it like a Facebook group or like where can people see these
Yes.
opportunities?
So on Facebook, we post 3 or 4 times a week, and we talk about things that are happening. Yesterday, it was so cool. We have 4 high school graduates, and they came to our office yesterday, and we had a pizza party, and we have volunteers who make cakes, and they ask the kids, "What's your favorite cake?" One kid wanted a cheesecake, and that will be on our post today. It's actually being posted today. And then their name is on it, and just all these special things. Anyway, we'll post on Wednesdays. We often do something called Wish Wednesdays. And
Okay.
those are things that the parents will say, "I have a child who would love this," and we'll put that on there.
Okay. That's
So
helpful because I think if people know where to go to find that, they're going to be
yeah,
able to get engaged. So that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that.
yes. So our Facebook page, everything's on our website, the Instagram, the Facebook, um, and our website's just Angels Arms, they're both plural, .org.
Mhm.
That's
Love
it.
it.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, and they can follow us and we'll We just keep putting things out there. We try to make them as personal as we can. Sometimes we can't show pictures, and other
Yeah.
times we can if, the rights are terminated or
Mhm.
if they're 18 and they say, "Sure, you can post my photo, I don't care," so
Mhm.
it really depends on the circumstance.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody thinking of fostering, like wondering if like they're the right fit to be a foster parent?
Yeah, I think the first thing that they could do is go to training. It doesn't cost anything, and you just go in, and that's when you will start talking about it with other people, and the people who do the training are foster parents usually. So, they're gonna tell you like it is, and that's when you get to start asking questions and say, "How does this work?" or whatever.
Mhm.
But if there are some people who just, like we talked about this before, but if their mind is made up, I can't give the child up once they come into my home, then you're not going to be a good foster parent
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you don't you don't get a say in that. I mean,
Yeah.
you do get to go to court with them and the judge might ask you things and say things, but it's ultimately up to that judge to make that
Right.
decision. So if you can't live with that, it's probably not good. But what they'll do is they'll come and do a home study to see if your home is okay. They're not looking for anything fancy. They're looking for cleanliness. And then they'll tell you the things that you need. Like you have to have a fire extinguisher on each floor,
Right.
things like
Like an
that, an
inspection.
evacuation plan posted
Mhm.
or in case of fire or emergency, things like that.
Is
But
it hard for people to become foster parents? I know you
no,
said there's a shortage, but is it a pretty easy process?
no, it's 12 weeks of training.
Oh
That's
gosh.
it.
Wow.
Once a week. It's
Wow.
not hard. Um, Background checks have to be done on them
Mhm.
and make sure there's nothing, of felony or any kind of abuse, whatever. So they look at that. The home studies part of it, they'll talk with them. The physical home, they obviously have to have bedrooms. And you'll learn all about that. Like once they reach a certain age, they can't share rooms anymore if
Yeah.
they're
Which is
different
great.
sexes.
Yeah.
Right. So,
So, can
yeah.
somebody when they sign up to be a foster parent, do they have to commit for a certain amount of time?
So if you feel like, oh my gosh, this isn't working, you can give 2 weeks notice, but you can also give an emergency notice like, oh my gosh, this child, I can't do this. I need this child out of my home. So no, you don't have to give because it's not for everybody.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so, but you want to go into it, because you have to also think about how many placements are we going to put this child through,
Yeah.
like,
You
and
wanna
you
be
don't
somewhat
want them to,
stable. You don't wanna commit for 2 weeks and then they go somewhere else.
right. And that does happen.
Do foster parents get to kind of meet the child? Because I know in your situation, they just got dropped off at your house, but
Yeah.
do they get to kinda interview them before they agree to take them in their home?
So some of our parents do that because they're so experienced and they'll say, I would like to talk with them, especially the ones that have teens. And
Yeah.
they'll say, I want to talk to this teen to make sure they understand that we have rules here. And if they're not willing to follow them, it's not going to be a good placement. And so now they don't do that with the littles. We call them the
Yeah.
littles.
Yeah.
They don't do that because it's just too confusing for them. So there
Yeah.
isn't like a meeting that happens or anything
Mhm.
because you have to realize too, a lot of these kids are being removed for a reason. And it's often like they need to find a home that night. And
Wow.
they'll call you that day and say, can you take these kids? So all of
Wow.
our kids we accepted, the day they were removed, either from another foster placement or from their home
Right.
that same day. And
Got it.
that's why as a foster parent, you are prepared then and you have extra things on hand, you know?
Just in case. Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
And
Okay.
we help with that too. Angels Arms
Nice.
helps with all of our families, giving them the supplies they need.
Do you help families that are not in your houses? Just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do sometimes when we have excess of things that we always take care of our families first because they have
Mhm.
so many kids. When we have excess of, say, we get tickets to an event or we get a donation of a ton of whatever, socks, Bomba
Yeah.
socks. which has happened before, then we reach out to other foster families and we share with them.
Great.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. Well, this has been like very informative. I
No.
am so glad that you've kind of talked through because I think other families, or even if there are women struggling with infertility, maybe this could be an option for them to consider. Maybe they don't want to commit to adoption full time, but
Right.
they're thinking of just testing the water to see what would it be like.
Yeah. And
So I
I
appreciate you
do.
sharing.
Yeah, I would love to add though that some kids, when they come into adoption, into the care, the state's care, they are then adoptable sometimes. If they terminate parental rights, then they can be adopted. Now, that doesn't mean the foster parents get first, now they would, if
Right.
they say,
Yeah.
I really want to, be considered. I've had this child for 18 months and this is a great blah, blah, blah. So they would be definitely considered, and I know
Good.
lots of people who have adopted foster children. So it does happen, but what they tell you is don't foster with in your mind, "I'm going to adopt this child," because you don't know if they're gonna
Right.
terminate rights or not.
It's a selfless act. It's for the child. It's not really for the
Right.
parents, right? It's for
Exactly.
the child. So
Yeah.
just like if you were taking care of anybody, right? It's
Right.
always about that person that you're serving. So, it's an honor and it's a
It
blessing for
is.
people to be able to do this. So,
It is. And I will say too, with the infertility, if there is anyone struggling with that, I understand it. I get it. It took years for that to work. And the fertility treatments didn't work. So I was just like, I guess we're not going to have kids. So then we decided, let's look, at adoption. And at the time, China was so big then, and everyone was adopting from there. But they changed the rules while we were adopting in the process. China did, and it was very hard. That was just like, I quit. Maybe we just weren't meant to have kids. It was like, I can't believe this is happening. And
mm,
just so people will know, I was pregnant, and I had no idea I was pregnant when that happened.
wow.
And I just thought I was under a lot of stress. And then when I finally went to the doctor, I was told, "You're 13 weeks, like you're past
Oh
your
my
first
god.
trimester and you can tell people." I was like, I didn't even know I could. So
Yeah.
there
How
are
many
things.
years had you been trying by that point?
6 years. And I think too that you have to realize and I there's no way somebody, if they would have told me this then, I would have been like, "Oh, be quiet. You don't even get it." But things do happen. Like we think we're in control of so many things. And when I hear people saying, "Well, I'm going to have kids when I'm 28 and I'm going to have another one when I'm 32." And I just laugh inside because I'm like, you really think you have control over that? And it does work for some people, and they're like, "I'm gonna
Yeah.
space them out 2 years apart, and I'm gonna have 6," and I'm like, "Okay."
I never thought I would be 32 before I had my first kid. If you would have asked like 18-year-old Jelena when she's going to have a baby, I'd be like, oh, 25,
Right.
27,
Yeah,
whatever. But life happens. Like
it
our
does.
stories are all different. So it's
You
an honor
never
just to
know.
be a parent, to have the opportunity. So,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
there'd be no angel's arms if I wouldn't have gone through that. I
wow,
wouldn't have fostered. I never even thought of fostering. I just thought of it because I thought, well, maybe I can help other kids since I can't have any, you
it's
know?
beautiful.
So
I love it. I love your
you never
story.
know.
Yeah. I love your story. I love your heart. I do have to ask you, as somebody like yourself that gives and gives and gives, like it does take
Mhm.
a lot of work and not just like your time, but your energy, your mental toll. What do you do to relax and like try to give like pour back into yourself?
I'm not the best at that, but I'm learning how to be because I just keep going sometimes and I'm realizing it. I'm 60 and I'm realizing, "Oh my gosh, you can't keep doing this." Like you need to stop and
Yeah.
re-energize. So I walk a lot. I live by Forest Park, so I walk so much with
Yes.
my dog and it helps because and I don't have headphones in because I want to think and I want to hear and and I'm just like, okay, is God trying to tell me something? Am I listening? Because when you're always doing, it's hard to listen.
Absolutely. I love that. That's great advice.
We're all human and we all go through really, really rough times in life. Nobody gets by unscathed. Nobody. And so it's really just how are we going to deal with it? And so, yeah, it does take a lot, but it's when you get that text then, like from one of our parents who texted me this morning saying, this is Josh and his baby, and look at him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you get replenished,
The
and
reason
you
why.
say, yeah,
That's
but you got
beautiful.
to be open to those things.
Yes, absolutely. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
I loved being on this, and I as many people as I can, we want to spread the word and realize that the state, they have good intentions. It's not their
Mhm.
fault that these kids, a lot of them fall through the cracks. They're doing the best they can, and some of these workers have caseloads that I don't even know how they get to visit a home, when they might have
Yeah,
40 on their caseload. And it's like, how do you
it's
do
crazy.
this?
Yeah.
And so the turnover rate's very high for
Yeah, I bet.
workers. So we just need to keep in mind there's no blame here, but there is the sense that we all as a community need to be invested in the
Mhm.
foster system. We have to be.
Absolutely. It's the kids, it's the future. It's the future of our
Right.
city, it's the future of our world. So I
Yeah.
think that this is a humanitarian
Right.
responsibility.
And it's
I
not their
100%
fault
agree.
that they're in care. It's not their fault.
No.
They didn't do anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, this is beautiful. Thank you very much for
good.
joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't wait for everybody to hear about this. I mean, and I've been
Good.
around Angels Arms. I made bikes with like Tom and he's been at some
Yeah.
of our events and I still had no idea. So that's why I think this stuff is so important to like get awareness out so people know how to get involved and participate. So,
And I
well, thank you so
appreciate
much for
you.
joining.
People like you who want to
Thank
get the
you.
word out and want to get involved. That's huge for people
Yeah.
like us. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think becoming a parent, I became aware of so many needs that are out there. And the more you know, the more I feel like you should do, like as a decent human
Right.
being in society. So it's
Right.
not for everybody, but I think when you do it, it encourages other people to do the same. So we lead
Agree.
by example. Thank you, listeners, for joining for another episode on the Mamas Who Brunch. I am so excited you got to meet Bess and hear all about Angels Arms. This is a beautiful organization. You can get involved. I will link the Facebook page, the website. You can find many ways to get involved. You don't have to dedicate your entire life, but there are small things that you can do throughout the year. Go to events, bring your kids,
Yep.
donate a few times a year. Like those are easy asks that we all can at least pick one. We can all do something, right, to
Yeah.
give back. Join us every Tuesday for a new episode at 10 a.m. on the Mamas Who Brunch. Again, I'm Jolene, your host, and I'm so glad that you decided to join us today. Thank you so much.